Well, hello everyone. Dan McTeague coming at you just minutes after the final version of a federal budget has been proposed. First time in 18 months we've had a federal budget. I've never seen in my time, certainly my career as a member of parliament, or the time before that, where budgets were kicked over. The only one I can recall is the 1981 constitutional issue, which delayed the budget by 3 or 4 months, and we had a July 1982 budget as opposed to one in April or May. So the delay certainly has a number of implications. The headline, of course, is one that leaves us unsurprised. The Liberals are not prepared to make any drastic changes to deficit spending, and as a result, an increase of $78.3 billion to an already $1.4 trillion debt is certainly something that is not going to get ignored this time by bond rating agencies or currency traders, both of which I think over the next couple of days are going to take their time, look at this and say, for only 2.5% or 2.3% decrease in spending, you have an economy that is declining much faster than 2.3%. It means that the projections the government made, remember, the projections were that we were supposed to have a $30 billion deficit instead of 78 billion just a few years ago. So next projections over the next few years, anything they're suggesting in terms of a decline can't be taken very seriously because they've consistently got the numbers wrong. The Mark Carney government looks like it's well on its way to doing exactly what the previous Trudeau Liberal government did, with a dash of maybe hope and optimism that people won't notice the fact that the debt burden will be passed on not just to this generation, but to the next generation. And it's going to make life that much more difficult for Canadians in years to come. And while there are no cuts in programs, where there ought to have been some that should have been considered, and there's a variety of them where the government could have gone, it feels that it did the right thing by getting rid of the carbon tax just before the federal election, but it's going to max out, it's going to supercharge an industrial carbon tax. That means every business is now a target in this country. Yeah, you might not see it directly on the invoice and the slip that you receive when you go and purchase whatever goods you have, but it will be there for businesses that elect to stay in Canada. This is going to be a real drag on small, medium, and even large businesses who are already under significant pressure, not just because of tariffs, but because this is a country that decided to put a lot of regulations on every aspect of production, manufacturing, resource extraction, resource refining, and it really made life more difficult for business. And as a result, many of those costs, where they could, were passed on to consumers. They will continue to be so. The fact the Liberals cannot get rid of the carbon tax, and they want an industrial carbon tax, or that they won't get rid of emission caps unless there are a number of conditions that are met, much of which requires massive amounts of investment in carbon sequestration, what they call the carbon capture and underground storage, a very dangerous process, by the way. And although it's been done in Saskatchewan and has promised of doing it, the idea was that somehow these things would give a bit of a sop to those out there who believe that people will be lined up to make investments once again in Canada. No issue as to government investing in infrastructure dealing with pipelines. No infrastructure is for natural gas or oil or LNG. All these things remain way up in the air, and without any real takers, it's unlikely we're going to see much activity. So what this budget is, it's a failure. It, in my view, as far as my years as a Liberal, I think it's probably the most difficult budget that we've seen since 1981, possibly 1997, but it is one that is going to require us to pay a little closer attention to how markets are going to interpret it. Because, yeah, it's nice to say other countries are going through a similar problem, but those countries are not blessed with an abundance of resource like Canada is. They're not blessed with an abundance of talent like Canada is. And that's not to take away from other countries. But for a country that has such a massive advantage, and doesn't have a reserve currency, by the way, like the United States does, where they can borrow, but they're also growing their economy while ours is stultifying. It's actually going in a recession. It seems to me that contenting ourselves with the old ideas that we could, money not be accountable for money, and that money was no object, and that budgets balance themselves. Looks like these Liberals are not able to get away from that. And what does that mean for you and I? A weakness in the Canadian dollar. The fact it takes 141 pennies, by the way, it was 139 a day or two ago, 141 pennies to buy a US dollar, which we price all of our commodities. That's 25 cents a liter for gasoline. Imagine what it's going to do to the price of food, utilities, and pretty much every commodity we consume in this country. It's going to continue to erode our purchase power as governments find ways not to balance the budget, or at least attempt to try to balance the budget, but to continue to make Canada a much weaker nation relative to the trade wars and the tensions that we're seeing around the world, not just from the United States, but also from China. I might add to my friends here in Eastern Canada, where I live, a 100% tariff on canola and on yellow peas coming from India and other countries is as devastating as what could potentially happen to the automotive sector, which is not protected at all. So on the balance, what we really need to look at is a government that's going to probably have to go back to the books. We don't know if this is going to pass. My guess is that the NDP will do what it always does. It turtles, because that's been pretty much the way over the past 10 years. So we're going to continue here at Canadians for Affordable Energy to signal where the government has got it abundantly wrong. The fact that they want to keep carbon taxes, the fact that they do not want to back away from net zero, suggests to me that they're just Trudeau light. And what they're going to do is continue down this road of spending more money than we're taking in, driving out investments, and driving the next generation that wants to take over this country and prosper as we did. They're going to drive that generation right into the ground. It's time to stop pile driving Canadians and start putting our efforts behind what the world wants of Canada, our talent, our resources, and our industry. And if we can't do that, no one's going to do it for us. Not China and having meetings with all sorts of people in Asia Pacific, or the United States, or Europe. We're on our own. And it's about time we stand foursquare, as our parents did, as our grandparents did, and as our forefathers and mothers did, to making this nation a better place for the next generation to come. Without that, continuing on this road of borrowing more money than we're taking in, spending money we don't have, is going to lead to ugly consequences, not just on the financial side, but possibly create greater problems and tensions within the Federation, the likes of which could very much compromise the future of Canada. I'm not prepared to do that. I need you to help me fight these bad policies that Liberals want to continue to foist down our throats at a time of extraordinary vulnerability. That's it for today. I'll be talking to you very shortly about our follow-up.